God aligns your soul long before He aligns your relationship, and this alignment is not a moment but a process, a deliberate reshaping of who you are at the deepest level. Before the right person enters your life, God begins working on the version of you that will be capable of sustaining the love He wants to send. Because a soulmate is not attracted to your confusion, your fear, your emotional instability, or your unhealed patterns. They are drawn to your clarity, your maturity, and your spiritual stability. And so God begins the introduction long before you ever meet the individual. He starts with your inner world, your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, your desires, your wounds. He begins adjusting what you tolerate, what you seek, what you desire, and what you attach to. This alignment often begins with discomfort because God has to separate you from versions of yourself that were shaped by pain, shaped by survival, shaped by disappointment, and shaped by past relationships that were never meant to define your future. When God is aligning your soul, He confronts the internal patterns that sabotaged your previous connections. He reveals the cycles you kept repeating, the emotional triggers you ignored, the boundaries you never built, and the expectations you settled for. The alignment becomes a spiritual recalibration, where He teaches you how to receive love differently and how to recognize love differently. You start noticing that the things you once chased no longer interest you, the relationships you once held on to no longer feel fulfilling, and the people you once thought you needed slowly fade from your emotional landscape. This is not loss, it is preparation. God removes what conflicts with your destiny so He can position you for what aligns with your identity. During this alignment, God also elevates your self-worth. He reminds you of who you are, what you deserve, and what you should never again accept. You start seeing yourself through the lens of your divine value instead of your emotional wounds. You begin healing from the inside out, and healing changes your vision. You stop seeking validation and start seeking compatibility. You stop craving attention and start craving alignment. You stop wanting someone who fills a void and start wanting someone who matches your purpose. And this shift does not happen overnight. It unfolds as God slowly rebuilds your emotional foundation. He strengthens your spiritual discernment so that when the wrong people appear, you no longer confuse chemistry with destiny. You no longer misinterpret intensity as intimacy. You no longer glorify the temporary simply because you fear being alone. Alignment gives you clarity, and clarity protects you from counterfeit connections. God also aligns your desires. You begin wanting things with more depth, more substance, more integrity. You no longer chase superficial qualities. You begin craving spiritual qualities, loyalty, consistency, faith, vision, character. Your spirit begins rejecting what once attracted you because God is preparing you to recognize someone who reflects His intention, not your old patterns. This shift in desire is one of the clearest signs that God is aligning your soul. You are not becoming picky. You are becoming precise. You are not becoming demanding. You are becoming discerning. You are not closing your heart. You are elevating your standards. The alignment also involves isolation, but not the kind that breaks you, the kind that rebuilds you. God pulls you away from noise so you can hear your own heart again. He distances you from distraction so you can see with accuracy. He separates you from chaos so you can experience peace. And in this stillness, you begin understanding yourself in ways you never did before. You start identifying what you truly want in a relationship, what you need to feel secure, what your boundaries must be, and how you want to show up as a partner. This level of self-awareness is part of the preparation because two people cannot align externally if they are not aligned internally. God aligns your mission as well. Your calling becomes clearer. Your path becomes more defined. You step into your purpose in ways you were once too afraid or too distracted to pursue. And as you grow, your soulmate becomes someone who fits the new you, not the old you. This is why God doesn't let certain relationships work. They were compatible with your past, but incompatible with your future. Alignment pulls you out of who you were and positions you to meet someone who recognizes who you have become. It becomes evident that God is preparing you for someone who matches your evolution, not your wounds. Preparation always comes before revelation, and when it comes to meeting your soulmate, God does not rush the process. He takes His time shaping you, maturing you, and positioning you so that when the right person enters your life, you will not misinterpret them, mishandle them, or mistake them for just another temporary chapter. God prepares you so thoroughly that when the introduction finally comes, you recognize the difference immediately. Preparation is not punishment, it is protection. It is God shaping your capacity so you can carry the relationship you've prayed for without collapsing under the weight of your own unhealed patterns. And this preparation often begins in the unseen places, the quiet moments, the seasons where you feel like nothing is happening, even though everything inside you is being rearranged for something greater. Before you meet your soulmate, God often takes you through a season of refinement. He begins revealing the parts of you that need strengthening, the areas where you settle too quickly, the fears you project, the insecurities you hide behind, the expectations you place on others that stem from old wounds. He shows you the traits you need to develop, the emotional maturity you must cultivate, and the spiritual awareness that will allow you to discern real love from illusion. This refinement is uncomfortable because it exposes the truth about yourself, but it is necessary because a soulmate relationship requires emotional honesty, self-awareness, and vulnerability. God cannot reveal the right person to a version of you that is still afraid to grow. Preparation also involves releasing what no longer aligns with your future. God begins removing attachments that weaken your judgment, relationships that distract you, people who drain you, patterns that limit you. Sometimes He closes doors you weren't ready to close. Sometimes He ends relationships you convinced yourself would work. Sometimes He allows separation from people you thought were permanent. And though it feels painful, it is actually divine strategy. God clears your life of noise because revelation requires space. You cannot receive what is meant for you if your life is cluttered with what isn't. You cannot recognize the right person while holding on to connections that feed your loneliness but starve your growth. So God empties your hands so He can fill them correctly. This preparation season also deepens your emotional intelligence. God teaches you the difference between desire and readiness, between loneliness and compatibility, between attention and intention. You begin learning how to listen to people beyond what they say, how to observe their character, their consistency, their integrity. You become aware of patterns that used to be invisible to you. You start noticing red flags you once ignored. You develop the strength to walk away from anything that does not align with your peace, your values, or your purpose. And this growth does not happen overnight. It evolves through lessons, disappointments, realizations, and moments of clarity that slowly shift your thinking. You begin understanding love through the lens of maturity, not fantasy. God also prepares your heart. He softens it where it has grown hard and strengthens it where it has become weak. He teaches you how to trust again, how to forgive, how to open up without losing yourself, and how to love without fear. This heart preparation is crucial because a soulmate is not introduced to a guarded version of you who hides from vulnerability. They are introduced to a healed version of you who can love, receive love, and build something meaningful without sabotaging it. God shapes your heart so it can match the heart of the person He is preparing for you. Because soulmate connections require two whole people, not two broken souls searching for completion. The preparation ensures that you enter the relationship from a place of fullness, not desperation. Furthermore, God strengthens your vision. He gives you clarity about what you want, what you need, and what you will no longer tolerate. You begin seeing relationships through the lens of purpose rather than comfort. You start valuing long-term alignment more than short-term emotion. You choose depth over superficial excitement. You choose stability over inconsistency. You choose peace over drama. This shift in vision is one of the strongest indicators that God is preparing you for someone significant. Your desires start matching your destiny, and your standards begin reflecting your worth. Finally, preparation positions you. God orchestrates your steps, guides your path, aligns your environment, and places you in the right spaces at the right time. He connects you with opportunities, develops your gifts, and pushes you toward your calling because your soulmate is tied to your purpose, not your comfort. And when you grow into the person you were meant to become, the introduction becomes inevitable. When God is the one orchestrating the introduction to your soulmate, He does not lead you through confusion, pressure, fear, or emotional turbulence. He speaks through peace, and that peace becomes the quiet confirmation your spirit cannot ignore. The way God introduces you to someone destined for your life is not through chaos or mixed signals. It is through an inner calm that makes no logical sense but feels spiritually undeniable. This peace does not scream, it settles. It does not demand attention. It rests on your heart in a way that feels both gentle and unshakable. You begin noticing that around this person you are not performing, not pretending, not trying to impress, and not shrinking to be accepted. There is a safety, a familiarity, a softness in your spirit that feels like alignment instead of anxiety. And this peace isn't created by the person. It is created by the presence of God surrounding the connection. A divine connection does not agitate your spirit. It does not create emotional highs followed by crippling lows. It does not push you into situations where you are constantly questioning their intentions or your worth. When God sends someone, He removes the urge to chase, to force, to guess, or to compete. You simply times no asterisk. You know because your heart is not fighting itself. You know because your mind is not in conflict with your spirit. You know because the connection does not come wrapped in fear, but wrapped in clarity. It is not perfect, but it is peaceful. And that peace becomes the signature of God's involvement. This peace also answers questions you haven't voiced. It calms insecurities you thought would follow you forever. It silences the mental noise that used to overwhelm you in previous relationships. Suddenly you find yourself breathing differently, thinking differently, and responding differently. You don't feel the need to analyze their every word or decode hidden meanings. Your spirit feels at rest because the connection is not demanding energy from your wounds. It is nurturing energy from your healing. This is why divine peace feels so foreign at first, because it doesn't match the emotional chaos you once mistook for love. And God's peace is not passive, it's instructive. It guides you. It reveals what's safe. It exposes what's real. Through peace, God teaches you the difference between attraction and alignment. Attraction can happen instantly, but alignment is recognized in the stillness of your spirit. You begin realizing that relationships sent by God do not chase excitement. They build consistency. They do not drown you in intensity. They anchor you in security. They do not leave you guessing. They help you grow in understanding. Peace becomes the filter through which you evaluate the connection. If your spirit feels settled, you know God's hand is in it. If your spirit feels disturbed, you know it is not your path. Peace also reshapes your expectations. You stop craving relationships that stimulate your fears and start valuing relationships that support your stability. You recognize that true love does not create drama to feel alive. It creates harmony to grow. You learn that peace is not boring. Peace is evidence of maturity, emotional intelligence, and spiritual alignment. Your soulmate does not excite your anxiety, they quiet it. They don't challenge your sense of worth, they affirm it. They don't trigger your defensive instincts. They help you feel safe enough to let them go. This peace allows you to be fully yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your dreams, your doubts, without fear of being judged or misunderstood. And when God speaks through peace, He also exposes what is not from Him. People who once seemed appealing suddenly feel draining. Situations that once felt exciting now feel unsettling. Conversations that used to consume your attention now leave you uneasy. That shift is not random, it is spiritual clarity. As the peace of God grows in you, anything that disturbs that peace becomes easier to identify. You begin distinguishing between emotional attachment and spiritual alignment. You stop being pulled toward people who trigger old wounds because you are no longer living from those wounds. Peace becomes your compass, and because of that, you begin protecting your heart with wisdom instead of fear. In this peace, communication feels natural instead of forced. You do not walk on eggshells. You do not hide your truth. You do not withhold your feelings. You discover that peace creates space for authenticity, and authenticity builds trust. You find yourself wanting to understand each other, not compete with each other. You recognize that peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of God in the connection. And where God's presence is, maturity grows, clarity strengthens, and love becomes intentional. When God introduces your soulmate through peace, you don't have to fight for their attention or question their commitment. You feel understood in a way you didn't know was possible. You feel seen without being exposed. You feel valued without being used. You feel connected without losing yourself. Peace becomes the atmosphere where love can finally breathe the way God intended it to. When God is preparing to introduce you to your soulmate, He often uses purpose long before He allows emotions to enter the picture. The connection does not start with romance, it starts with assignment. You meet the person not because you were looking for a relationship, but because you were walking in a direction that aligned with your calling. This is why so many divine connections feel natural from the beginning. They are not built on superficial charm, but on a shared sense of mission, a mutual dedication to growth, and a spiritual alignment that goes deeper than personality or preference. When God introduces you through purpose, He is showing you that destiny-level relationships are born where your gifts, your values, and your spiritual identity find resonance in someone else. The relationship becomes meaningful because it grows from a place where your life direction and their life direction move in harmony, not conflict. Purpose connections have a different energy. They feel motivating, uplifting, and grounding all at the same time. You begin noticing that this person encourages you to become the best version of yourself, not through pressure, but through their presence. They inspire growth simply by being who they are. They challenge you in healthy ways, not to break you, but to build you. They speak to the part of you that desires expansion, evolution, and transformation. And this is one of the first signs that God is involved. The relationship pushes you toward your calling instead of pulling you away from it. There is no shrinking, no dimming, no compromising your identity. Instead, you feel strengthened, sharpened, and elevated. And purpose is not always loud. Sometimes it shows up in small moments, in aligned conversations that open your mind, in shared interests that deepen your connection, in dreams that somehow intersect, and in goals that seem to complement each other perfectly. When God uses purpose to introduce you to your soulmate, the connection does not feel accidental, it feels intentional. There is a sense of this makes sense even if you cannot articulate why. You feel like you are moving in the same direction even before you fully understand where that direction is leading. Purpose creates flow. It removes friction. It builds understanding. It creates a foundation strong enough to support a lifetime connection. This kind of introduction also reveals who is times not times your soulmate. People who are not aligned with your purpose will drain you, distract you, or push you off your path. Their presence will create confusion instead of clarity. They will pull you backward instead of moving with you forward. When God introduces you through purpose, you begin recognizing the difference between someone who fits your comfort and someone who fits your calling. Someone who fits your comfort makes life easy temporarily, but someone who fits your calling makes life meaningful permanently. Purpose helps you differentiate the temporary from the eternal, the seasonal from the significant, the distraction from the destiny. Purpose also teaches you how to love intentionally. When your soulmate enters your life through a shared assignment, the relationship grows from collaboration rather than dependency. You learn how to communicate on a deeper level because the conversation is not just emotional, it is spiritual, intellectual, and visionary. You talk about your goals, your values, your dreams, your fears, and your responsibilities. You build a partnership where your strengths balance their weaknesses and their strengths balance yours. This kind of balance is not achieved accidentally. It is created by divine orchestration. God positions you to complement each other in ways you didn't even know you needed. In a purpose-led introduction, you don't lose yourself. You find more of yourself. You discover new gifts, new directions, new ambitions, because the connection pulls out potential that had been dormant. You start stepping into roles you once doubted you could handle. You gain clarity about the kind of future you want to build. You begin recognizing that the right person will make your purpose feel more achievable, not less. They will celebrate your growth, not resent it. They will support your dreams, not compete with them. They will walk beside you, not behind or ahead of you. Purpose aligns you so that your journey feels like a shared mission rather than a forced compromise. Another powerful element of a purpose connection is timing. God introduces you when both of you are ready to walk in maturity. You might have met earlier in life and completely overlooked each other because you were not living in your purpose yet. But once you step into who you are meant to be, the introduction becomes clear. God reveals what you could not see before because your mind, your spirit, and your vision were not mature enough to understand it. Purpose growth opens your eyes. It sharpens your discernment. It prepares your heart to recognize someone who reflects your future instead of your past. And when the introduction happens, you don't feel like you are losing independence. You feel like you are gaining partnership. You don't feel like you are merging identities. You feel like you are merging destinies. You don't feel like you have to abandon your purpose to keep the person. You feel like the person is woven into the very fabric of your purpose. This is how God works. He introduces you in a way that confirms, not contradicts, the path He has you on. And through that introduction, you begin to understand that real love is not just emotional, it's transformational. When God is preparing to send your soulmate into your life, divine timing becomes one of the most unmistakable signs of His involvement. Timing removes competition, confusion, and contradiction. Timing clarifies what your emotions once complicated. Timing brings order to what your past relationships turned chaotic. When the right time arrives, everything that was once unstable, inconsistent, or uncertain suddenly becomes clear. God uses timing as a divine separator, distinguishing what was temporary from what is truly meant for you. You begin to see why every previous relationship failed, why certain people drifted away, and why some connections never became what you hoped they would. It was never rejection. It was redirection. It was God preventing what would have distracted you, delaying what you were not ready for, and protecting what needed more maturity before it could be revealed. Divine timing creates space. It removes the individuals who were never meant to share your future but were necessary for shaping your past. It closes doors gently or abruptly, depending on what your spirit needed to detach. Sometimes the timing feels harsh because it forces you to let go of people you had emotional investment in. Other times it is subtle and quiet, and you simply outgrow a connection you once clung to. But in every situation, timing is God's way of clearing the stage before the main character arrives. He does not allow counterfeits to stand in the spotlight when the right person is approaching. Divine timing pushes people out of your life not because they were bad, but because they were not aligned with your destiny. And God will not allow destiny to be delayed by relationships that were only meant to be lessons. As timing unfolds, your mindset changes. You start seeing love differently. You become more selective, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You begin valuing consistency over chemistry, intentionality over excitement, clarity over emotional highs. You no longer feel the need to force connections or convince anyone of your worth. You stop chasing people who are unsure about you. You stop entertaining people who come with half-hearted efforts. You begin recognizing that real love does not require you to compete for someone's attention or prove your value through emotional performance. When God's timing is at work, you develop the confidence to wait because you know waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. And when the right person approaches in the right time, everything that once felt difficult becomes simple. Conversations feel natural. Communication becomes effortless. There's no tension about where the relationship is heading. You're not left wondering whether they are committed or uncertain. Their presence feels like an answer, not a question. Despite your past experiences, you notice that the connection grows without resistance. Timing creates a sense of flow, where the relationship forms at a pace that feels healthy and grounded. You are not rushing out of anxiety, nor are you slowing down out of fear. The connection unfolds exactly how it needs to, and you sense that God's hand is on every step. Divine timing also reveals truth. People who once tried to stay connected to your life suddenly show their true intentions. Individuals who were inconsistent begin to pull away. Relationships built on convenience fall apart. Situations that used to confuse you now seem obvious. Timing exposes who was meant to be temporary and who was meant to be significant. You start understanding that some people were only in your life to teach you boundaries, to increase your discernment, or to grow your self-worth. They were never meant to be your final destination. Their exit is not a loss, it is alignment. You no longer carry guilt for relationships that ended because you see how God used those endings to create room for what truly matters. When divine timing is active, even the desires of your heart shift. You stop wanting what comes quickly and start wanting what comes correctly. You desire depth, loyalty, peace, and spiritual partnership. You want someone who understands commitment, someone who values communication, someone who chooses you with intention. Your standards rise because your spirit rises. You no longer romanticize inconsistency or excuse emotional immaturity. You are no longer seduced by the temporary because your spirit is preparing for the permanent. Timing matures your expectations so that when your soulmate arrives, you recognize them not by how they make you feel in a moment, but by how they consistently show up for you over time. Divine timing removes competition in another powerful way. It aligns both hearts at the same moment. You may have met the right person before, but one or both of you were not ready. Maturity was missing. Healing was incomplete. Vision was unclear. But when timing is right, both individuals are in a place where they can give, receive, and sustain love without sabotage. Both hearts beat in the same rhythm. Both minds see the same direction. Both spirits recognize the same purpose. Timing ensures that neither person has to drag the other into emotional readiness. You meet on equal ground, with equal commitment and equal clarity. And perhaps the most beautiful part of divine timing is the peace it brings. You don't have to compete for their love, because your spirit knows they were sent. You don't fear losing them because your heart knows the connection is protected. You don't question their intentions because their presence is consistent. Timing removes the noise, silences the doubt, and allows love to unfold in a way that feels sacred, steady, and undeniable. When God is the one orchestrating the introduction to your soulmate, He does not confirm it through overwhelming chemistry or temporary emotional highs. He confirms it through consistency, because consistency is the language of genuine commitment and spiritual alignment. Chemistry can fool you, charm can deceive you, attraction can distract you, but consistency reveals the truth. When someone is sent by God, their behavior aligns with their words, their actions match their intentions, and their patterns reflect maturity rather than instability. Consistency becomes the quiet evidence that this person is not entering your life to entertain your emotions, but to build something meaningful with you. It is through their steady presence, their reliable communication, and their intentional effort that you begin to sense the authenticity of the connection. You realize that the relationship is not built on momentary sparks, but on a steady flame that doesn't flicker with every challenge. Consistency also creates safety. When someone shows up in the same way, with the same integrity, with the same level of respect, you begin to relax in ways you never could with inconsistent relationships. You no longer feel the need to overthink, overanalyze, or question their motives. Your past may have conditioned you to expect disappointment, but their steadiness begins to heal those expectations. You start experiencing a new kind of emotional security, one that doesn't rely on grand gestures or dramatic apologies, but on daily effort. Their consistency becomes a form of emotional clarity, showing you that choosing you is not a struggle for them, but a natural expression of who they are. This allows you to show up authentically without fear of being abandoned or misunderstood. And consistency doesn't mean perfection, it means responsibility. It means they take ownership of their actions. It means they communicate instead of withdrawing. It means they lean in when challenges arise instead of running away. You begin to notice that they don't disappear when life gets complicated. They don't use silence as punishment. They don't shift their energy based on convenience. They don't offer you half-hearted affection. Instead, they offer you reliability, stability, and effort. And effort is one of the most powerful love languages. Someone who consistently tries, consistently shows up, consistently invests, is someone whose heart is aligned with yours. Consistency also reveals character. When you see someone's actions over time, you understand who they are beyond the surface. You notice how they treat people, how they handle stress, how they respond to disappointment, how they navigate conflict. These patterns matter. God does not introduce you to a soulmate whose character wavers with circumstances. He sends someone whose character is steady enough to support the relationship He intends for you. Through consistency, you begin seeing their values not in what they claim, but in how they live. You observe their kindness, their patience, their discipline, their humility, and their integrity. Consistency exposes what words can hide, and this level of clarity allows you to trust the connection in a deeper way. Consistency also nurtures trust. Trust does not grow from excitement, it grows from stability. It grows from knowing that someone will show up on the good days, the bad days, and the ordinary days. It grows from repeated actions that communicate, "You can rely on me." You begin relaxing into the connection, allowing your guard to fall without fear. You discover that trust is not something you have to force, it naturally evolves because their behavior gives you reasons to trust. You begin opening your heart with ease because their reliability gently teaches you that vulnerability is no longer dangerous. And through consistency, emotional intimacy deepens. Real connection is built through small, steady moments, not grand, infrequent expressions. It is built through honest conversations, shared routines, thoughtful gestures, mutual support, and predictable presence. You find yourself feeling closer to them, not because they overwhelmed your emotions, but because they honored your spirit. Consistency makes space for emotional depth to form without pressure. It gives the relationship room to grow at a healthy pace, allowing both individuals to evolve together without fear of misalignment. Moreover, consistency confronts your old patterns. If you have experienced unstable love before, a consistent person may feel unfamiliar at first. You might question whether their steadiness is real. You might wonder if calmness is a sign of disinterest because you were conditioned to equate chaos with passion. But over time, their consistency retrains your heart. It teaches you that real love is not chaotic, it is grounding. Real love is not inconsistent, it is steady. Real love does not leave you guessing. It reassures you without you having to ask. You begin realizing that what you once thought was boring was actually peaceful. What you thought was too calm was actually healthy. What you mistook for lack of excitement was actually emotional safety. Consistency also aligns with God's character. God is consistent in His love, His timing, His guidance, and His promises. So when He brings someone into your life who reflects that consistency, it becomes another form of confirmation. It is as if God is saying, "This relationship reflects my heart for you." The person's reliability mirrors God's reliability. Their faithfulness mirrors God's faithfulness. Their intentionality mirrors God's intentionality. And when someone's patterns align with God's nature, you begin seeing them not as a coincidence, but as a divine appointment. And through all of this, consistency builds the foundation for a relationship that can withstand challenges. When both individuals remain steady and committed, the relationship grows stronger with each season. Conflicts can be resolved calmly because emotional stability is present. Differences can be embraced rather than feared. Growth becomes a shared journey instead of a solitary struggle. You discover that love grounded in consistency does not crumble under pressure. It adapts, strengthens, and deepens. This is the kind of love that lasts, the kind of love that evolves, the kind of love that reflects divine intention, because it was not built on momentary feelings, but on steady commitment, mutual respect, spiritual alignment, and unwavering presence.